Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Matthew Simons, who is currently writing his first book called Field Guide to Conscious Living. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to talking with you.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's get going.
All right. And for our listeners, Matthew and I have already been talking for probably the last 15 minutes, so we've had a great chat and definitely looking forward to covering these next 5 questions. So question number 1, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
First of all, I really believe you have to set clear intentions and goals, and that's for yourself. Why are you writing this book? What are you doing it for? Is this for ego? Is this to get a message out? You have to have a clear intention of what you're doing. And you have to prioritize yourself because, life is going to really get in the way of a lot of things. And if you don't prioritize yourself, make time for yourself, the book should be the most important thing that you're doing. And for me, I didn't necessarily think I was going to be an author. My grandfather was an author. He wrote over 20 books. My sister was very successful in journalism, and that wasn't. And I didn't go down that path. So I thought that that's for them, that's for other people. And I just kept on having this burning and this yearning inside to get my message out. And I kept on resisting it. And an opportunity came up where I decided it's time to start doing it. And I had to write it for myself first. So I had to set clear intentions that I'm writing this for me. If I'm writing it for anybody else, and if I start getting too many other voices in my head, it was going to be a problem. And so first and foremost, I had to set the intention of who and what I'm doing it for. And for me, that was myself. I really needed to make that clear. And I needed to prioritize myself. I'm typically a people pleaser. I was in sales and marketing for years, for almost 20 years. And that's what I spent my first life in, I call it. And I never prioritized myself, and that was to my detriment. I was a road warrior, so I would eat whenever it was, eat whenever I had a chance to throw food in my mouth. I would never take time to relax. I was always stressed. I was angry, and that really translated to a really dark time in my life with my family, with my kids. I brought that home with me, and so I never prioritized myself. And so this book, without me prioritizing myself, I would have never been in this position to realize what I needed to do. So I'm actually thankful to have gone through what I needed to do, but you got to prioritize yourself and set a clear intention of what you're doing. You need a roadmap because otherwise there are going to be too many distractions in life that's just going to get you off course. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I know prior to the show we were talking as well about, what's the main thing that you want to accomplish with this book too, and getting really clear on that.
Yeah, and that really shifted for a while, because at first it was like I need to get a message out, and then it became a very personal and intimate thing. I realized that I had to do this. I had to do this for me. I had realized that a book is such an intimate, personal. No matter what genre it is you. You're writing. You're writing an extension of you, and so for me, it had to be. I had to get my priorities right first. Initially, the idea of writing a book is really glamorous. You can become an expert, or you can be able to stand on a soapbox, or you can tell people, that you think you know what you're doing, and really, or you can make a lot of money. And you realize a lot of those things really aren't true. The way that books are monetized now has changed completely, and so you really have to have the right motivations. And if they're not, you're going to probably see results that are equivalent of what your intentions were.
Absolutely. What do you feel so far is the hardest part about getting published?
That's a loaded question. I mean, there's so many different angles to it, because and the biggest thing would be is for me, it's really not giving up. And I know it sounds simple, and most of the things in life that we do are simple, yet we make it much more difficult than it needs to be. And it's simply not giving up. I had this first iteration of the book was completed last year, and then it's been fine-tuned and now has a new title, and it's just about ready to go now. And if I would have just given up in the beginning when things started getting tough, this would have never happened. It would have had a completely different name, and it would have been 30% completed. And so the biggest thing you can do is not give up. And also on that path, I mean, you don't realize that one little step, and you don't think that one little step makes a difference, because each day it doesn't feel like it makes a difference, but one day becomes a week, becomes a month, and became a year. And before I knew it, I'd finished, my book. I'd been working on this for a year, and then became over that. And you realize that it starts taking shape, and where you started in the beginning is not where you're going to be at the end. And so if you give up, or if you allow fear or judgment to creep in, it's going to completely get you off your course. You have to be, and you really can't let the noises get in and distract you. There's going to be a lot of people that are either going to, one, tell you why you can't. And those people, the only experience they have in life is having other people tell them that they can't. Because most people that are giving you advice have never done what you've done. They're afraid to do what you do. They want to do what you want to do, and they tell you can't, because that's what they've been told their whole life. So you can't listen to the crowd, because the crowd's going to tell you no. Everybody's going to tell you no, you shouldn't do it. Everybody's going to tell you no, you shouldn't do it, until the second that it's successful. And they go, wow, I knew you could do it all along. And so you have to be motivated from it within, and you have to not allow, all the voices get you down. And so don't give up, no matter what you're hearing, no matter what's coming up. Everything comes up to help you grow and to help you adjust. And so if something comes up that doesn't seem right and really frustrates you and upsets you, that's something that maybe needed to be there to help get you on a different course. I can't tell you how many times I had a course correction on this path, and without listening to that course correction and actually running towards it and not just putting my head in the sand. I mean, I have a completely different, book now that I love and that I'm thankful for. And so you have to you just can't give up, and you have to appreciate and run towards the rejections, run towards the resistance that you're facing, because that's how you're going to get past this and really break through and have something big. If everybody's telling you how great you're doing along the way, I guarantee you that is not going to be the right book. Those are people that are telling you yes, and you're either that, or you're going to have the people that are telling you no, why you can't. So this has to be for you. So it goes back to that same question of your intent. It has to be for you, and you have to be the motivating factor, because there's too much noise to get you off course.
Yeah, I agree completely. And at the end of the day, you have to trust your gut.
Yeah. Yep. Completely. We've been taught not to. We've been taught in this world to, we have to analyze, we have to overanalyze, we have to study, we have to go back and look at the way things have been done to see, hey, this is the way things were in the past, so this is the way it has to be done. Well, what if there's a new way of doing things, and we have to, and instead of going A, B, C, D, E, there's a way to go from A to directly to E. And so just because the systems have been in place, like the old systems of publishing, just because the old systems have been in place, that doesn't mean there isn't a new way to do it. And so you always got to be open to that. So.
Absolutely. I think Steve Jobs said it best, think differently, right?
Yeah. Easier said than done, because
Sure.
Where did we learn most of the things? Where do we learn the way that we think? We learned it from our parents, or the household we grew up in, or the society that we grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they learned those same good or bad habits from their parents, and then their parents and their parents. So we're really just teaching these bad cycles, these bad habits over and over and over and over again, And so it's, with my book, it's like, I'm just realizing I was passive. I was a zombie in everything I was doing. I wasn't conscious in anything I was doing. I was disempowered in everything. I gave away my power in everything. And being conscious is just a matter of just waking up and just being aware of what you're doing. Even just, why am I breathing? What am, just consciously thankful for the air you breathe. We're just walking through life, just waiting to be, waiting to be frustrated, or waiting for something to happen so we can react to it. But we can create whatever we want. And just for so long, I didn't realize that, and I'm just, it's time to, you got to do it for you. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you are planning to use in your book launch that you feel is going to work well.
Well, I like how you worded it, that I'm going to feel is going to work well, because I have no clue. I say, I was in sales and marketing for almost 20 years, and but everything's thrown out the window with this. It's a different world, and so with this, it's a really good question, because I I really need to take a beginner's mind approach with marketing, because yes, I say I'm good at marketing. I'm good at selling myself. That's really all I'm good at. I know how to sell myself. I know how to interact with people. I know how to read people. But then this is different, and so with that, it's the marketing side has been kind of a tough one for me. And so what I'm looking at is, first of all, you need to make sure that the world knows who you are. Okay. And so for me, I was keeping it a secret. Okay. I was living in a world where I was working on conscious living. I was working on all these really positive, motivational things, but I was keeping it completely secret. Basically it's my wife and I knew about it, and we were kind of working together, healing and going through all of this. And I kept it a big secret. Okay. And so really it was the last couple of years that I've realized, like, it was scary for me to say I'm an author. Okay. That was one of the scariest things, to put that on my LinkedIn profile, to put that on my Facebook profile, because I'm like, oh boy, now I am this thing. And so we don't realize how important our mindset is. And so, not to get too far off on marketing, but our mindset is so important. And so just the fact of me saying I am an author, and that's very, very different than saying I hope to be, I want to be. All of those are versions that says one day maybe, but I don't want to create a reality where one day I'll be an author. I want to create a reality where I am an author. So one of the first things you have to do is you have to let it creep into everything you are and everything you do. So the scariest things, because I was trying to get other jobs, a year or two in my old industry, and I'm like, I can't put an author on there because I won't be able to get this job that I think I have to have. And so first and foremost, I had to let the world know who I am. I had to let the world know that this is who I am, what I'm doing, and I want to get my message out. It's scary. You feel you're going to be rejected. You feel you're going to be, judged. And so with that, then you need to start creating your platform and being congruent, because it's one thing for me to say I'm balanced, but if I'm not living, if I'm not living a balanced life, I'm not being congruent. I'm just chatting. I'm just jibber jabbering. I need to not only say what I'm doing, I need to act like that. And so I had to make conscious efforts, and if the industry that I'm in is not nourishing my soul, it's not satisfying, I need to get somewhere that it is. That's tough, because you're used to making money one way, and you start making it a different way. Typically becomes in a much lower form. Less money starts coming in. So I had to make a conscious shift. It was a decision with my family, my wife, that I was choosing my happiness over money, and with that, then that starts becoming your marketing. Your lifestyle becomes your marketing. So people now see, okay, now I'm a director of tennis. Now I'm a head coach for the men's and women's tennis at the University of Puget Sound, an amazing transformational Division III school. So now I'm actually helping influence other people instead of just selling products that don't resonate with me. And so it's an evolution depending on where you're at, because some people, they're already living their life, and it's going to be, hey guys, my book dropped. More of the same, you're just tapping the tire down the road. For some people, they're going to need to, become more congruent and in line with who and what they're becoming. If you want to become an expert in cooking, you need to be posting and talking about cooking in everything you do. I love becoming a better human being, transforming myself. I love looking at the world in a conscious way. I love trying to find better ways to find balance in my life. And so for me, my book is just my lifestyle. It's an extension of me. So then that marketing just becomes a natural extension of me. So you just start marketing yourself. So my book become one entity, and I just start marketing. So I might advertise, so I might just market and talk about, an event that's nice to you, or something that I'm able to do, and just talking about the balance. And so you really need to, it really becomes the biggest part is marketing yourself. And then as you start building that base, LinkedIn is, typically been considered, maybe very just, the way to find a job. But, you can have up to 10-minute videos, 9-minute and 59-second videos on LinkedIn. And there's some really good ways to get your message out there. And, I went from a couple hundred, followers on LinkedIn to just about 10,500. And so that also took time. So it just has to seep in everything you're doing. And with that said, as I've created the platform more of who I am, it's more in line with what and who I am. And then, what I believe, I'm going to bank on myself. And so I'm going to bank on myself and actually I'm going to have a Kickstarter campaign that's going to be launched in the next, I'm just finalizing my Kickstarter campaign right now. And so for me, the biggest part of the marketing tool is going to be me getting that out to as many areas as possible. And then, because people are going to buy into the book if they buy into me. And so it all comes back to me. Going back to that first question, what's the biggest piece of advice? Making sure you're prioritizing yourself and what's your intentions. Everything has been about, this has to be for me first. And so even in the marketing, it's like I need to be that marketing aspect. I need to be the visual where they say, well, this person is living a conscious life. They're living a balanced life. And I think that's the best marketing that you can do. And so outside of that, it's very hard for me to have other people, to delegate work. And so I know that I also need to also partner with the right, social media people. I need to have the right. And so that's the other part too, is we can't do everything on our own. I know as I say, we're trying to do all this on our own. You still have to have a team of people in the areas that you're not an expert on. So I know some areas of sales and marketing. There's a lot of other areas I don't know. And so that comes into play where you need to have people that you trust, that do buy into what you're doing, that just aren't doing what they're doing to get money from you, just to separate you from your money, that understand, buy into your message. Because every interaction you have with every human being, whether you're at the store, the library, it doesn't matter, is a potential to advertise your book, to advertise yourself, to advertise your lifestyle. The world is in chaos, and people are looking for bright spots. And so if you're not that bright spot, and if you're diminishing your bright spot with all this positive work you're doing the world a disservice, because the world needs more of you, of people that are really trying to help change the world. So. Well, long story short, right? There we go.
Well, you bring a lot of great points up. One, having a CEO mentality. Trusting the people that you work with are going to do their job. Like on my team, formatters, editors, book cover designers, it's like the ESPN phrase, you had one job. That's a phrase I love to say. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, you got one job, you take care of this. You have one job, you take care of this. And just trusting that it's going to run so you're not having to do everything. And you bring up another great point, marketing 101. Marketing becoming a natural extension of yourself, because that is one of the ways to successfully promote your book, is walking them through the journey, going through different chapters, talking about you got your book edited, got it formatted, here's some book cover designs, what do you guys think, and just making it interactive and making that a daily extension of yourself to build your brand and to build your book.
Yeah, and honestly, writing a book, it becomes it's a very healing process, a learning process. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn about what triggers you. You learn about, it really becomes a healing process when you go through this. And honestly, you have a good point. With the book cover, for example, I thought I had everything, and I'm not a graphic artist at all. I can't really draw that well. I had my idea of what I thought the book cover would look like. And so I gave my notes to my designer and this and that. And I said, but here's the deal. You're the professional. I want you to come up with what you think would be the best. This is what I'm feeling, but you go with it. And when I did that, when I empowered her, I got a book cover that blew my mind. It was unlike anything I expected. It was completely different than than my rough, weird sketches. And I fell in love with it too. So there's something about when you empower other people, it can be really, really cool when you get that. But if I was controlling and trying to micromanage it, I would have had a really weird book cover that was kind of like the design I came up with. And so there's also I'm going to use this again, but it really is a balance of holding on and letting go, of what we do. And that's very, very difficult because we want to hold on to things so tight. We resist it so much, but it can really be good when we do that. So.
Yeah, I have the same philosophy, especially with book covers, because I can envision the cover in my head, but I can't write it out, but I can communicate what I want and the different things that I'm seeing in the cover. And fortunately, I've got an amazing designer. He takes care of it all, and I'll just send him, hey, make these revisions here, here, and here. And it's exactly what I wanted in my head. So it's so amazing how that can work. And sometimes, as you mentioned, they can do an even better job to make it really pop. It's just giving them that opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Oh, definitely. My favorite book is my book, and what I learned most was how awesome of a writer I am. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think we talked about this prior to the show.
No, that's, I'm going to go with a unique answer here because it was more of a transformative book for me, and it came out in 2005. It was, I read this kind of around like around like '07, '08 is when I read it, when the market kind of tanked again. And the book was called Blink, and it was The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. Malcolm Gladwell wrote that. And really what it did is it kind of shifted my perspective, and it gave me like a permission to trust myself. And I know that sounds silly, but I've always really kind of had an inner intuition, gut instinct, if you will, that I've really kind of I kind of had a strong intuition always, right? And then, but really in this world, you're kind of taught, no, you want to then, you need to analyze and this and that. And so it was the first time that I really read a book that wasn't too esoteric. It was a business related book that really kind of told you that, your gut feeling, that there is more to that, and it had real world business experiences and examples to kind of allow me to say, hey, it's okay to trust your intuition. It's okay to trust your gut. And for me, that kind of started opening the doors. I lived a very, I lived in a box, growing up. So things were either black or white. And so, giving myself the permission to think that, of trusting intuition, that seemed like a very foreign thing to me. That opened the door for a 10-year expansion in my mind that I could have never even fathomed. And so it was opening a door. It's like imagining that, say you lived at a one-story building your whole life, and this door that you thought was a closet your whole life, it wasn't a closet. It was an elevator, and you weren't living on a one floor. You were living on a 100-floor building, and you've only been experiencing one level of that. There's all these different levels to life, and that's kind of the way I was kind of living my life. I lived in a Rambler, not realizing that my door was an elevator, and it could take me to anywhere I wanted to go. And so, not to sound silly, but that book really kind of opened me to think that, okay, there is more to things. And there's been much more transformative books, the Tao Te Ching, things like that. But that book kind of said, hey, it's okay. What you're doing is okay. I needed someone to affirm that for me. Quite honestly, we're not taught to be fully confident in everything we're doing. We're taught to really be disempowered. So that really helped take my first step to empowerment, and that was huge.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, I already kind of snuck it in there. Life is a balance of holding on and letting go. Mm-hmm. And so that's from Rumi, the Persian poet from the 1200s. And so for me, that and that's actually, in each chapter of my book, I have a quote, and that's actually one of the quotes in one of the chapters, because it is such an important thing for us. I wanted to hold on to everything when I was younger, because growth and change was painful and scary. And so, it's like, you can't really explain to the butterfly, hey, all this crazy stuff that's going on when you're transforming, right? They have to transform, from, the caterpillar to the butterfly. And so it's a very painful, process, but, you kind of got to go with it. And there's things you need to bring with you, and there's things you need to let go. And understanding that and really living your life like that can really make a huge difference, and I've stopped putting things in boxes as good or bad. They just are, and you go with it. And, most people can't let go of things, I'm less afraid of it. I don't, and as I say this now, I'm not perfect. I'm nervous of change. I'm still slightly resistant. And every time change happens, I'm like, oh man, it always works out in my favor, but it's that process that's always so scary. So I always need to constantly remind myself that the life is a balance of holding on and letting go, and really to enjoy this process. And it's not just that end journey. And so yeah, I really use that a lot. And the quotes in my book are things that I really kind of go back to, because, all these metaphors in life, all these metaphors and these great quotes, I mean, there is so much truth into those. We say, oh, wow, that's great. That's a great saying. But what does it really deeply, deeply mean? And there can be so much power in those quotes. And for me, that was a big one. And it's going to be a process forever. You're constantly going to be letting go and holding on. And, the second we think we have it all figured out, life will throw you a curveball. So,
Matthew, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, this will probably see my marketing strategy needs to be up to improved a little bit, because right now, You can find me on for life coaching and for mindset coaching. You can get me on Field Guide for Conscious Living at Gmail. My website isn't up yet. Also Matthew Simons at Facebook, Matthew Simons at LinkedIn with the Field Guide for Conscious Living. I am hard to find, and so that's going to make it difficult. So with the Kickstarter campaign, that's the part that I need to improve on. And so the website isn't there. But for anybody that wants to reach out, wants to learn more about this book, Field Guide for Conscious Living at gmail.com is a great way. I'm happy to interact and help talk to anybody that reaches out right now. And eventually I'll have the website and the Kickstarter campaign going, and it'll be a little easier. So that was the question that I didn't want to have to answer, but there I am, beginner mindset with my marketing side. So.
Hey, it's all good. Matthew, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I do wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Paul, thank you. Had a great time.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.